Hello! Hello! Happy Vlogmas. My least favorite word of the year. Today I'm making something that I love making. So I know this is really goofy. A couple of years ago, I came out with a pattern called the bin bin. And basically it is a way to make a fabric bin. So then you can make it whatever fabric you want in any size you want. And basically it's like a worksheet. And I'll show you how one works because I'm super proud of this pattern. I love it. And it's very, 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 adaptable. Like you can use it for everything. So, and then after a little while, I had a lot of fun making these, and I'll show you here's some pictures. So I have a few samples here. So, so I made them with a clear front like this. Look at this one's like shallow. I made them with all fabric, but then collapsible so you could remove the bottom. Like those ones you see at like Target and places like that, right? This is exactly that, right? So you could do a collapsible, and then you could do a collapsible with a clear front as well. Or you could do a non-collapsible with a clear front or a non-collapsible with a fabric, all fabric. So there's 4 different ways to do it. Here's an example of all 4, and that's sitting on these shelves I have at home. And partly the reason I started this is because I have these shelves like this built into my bedroom, and I wanted to make bins, and I wanted them to all be the same fabric. And so these aren't the ones I did, but so I did that. So I created this pattern and did that. Well, I had a lot of fun with this, and I even started making things like for my sister for all of her scrapbooking supplies, or journaling supplies, I should say. And I decided that I also wanted to make like a covered box. So here, look at this one. My camera's not like up high enough, but here's a little covered box. And it even has a little clear window on the front. Sorry, that camera angle is really bad. And see here, this is the little box inside. And this one doesn't even have binding on the top. This is my next Vlogmas project. What is that? And this one isn't collapsible, so I don't have a removable bottom in here. But look at this Jen Hewitt fabric. It's just beautiful on camera. God, I love this fabric. And then it has the little lid. Here, maybe I can show you on a full screen. See how cute it is? It's all cockeyed now because I've been like mashing it around here. But so there's that. And then this one here, I used an old quilt square, and I made another little bin. And this just holds all my little like webbings and things like that are like the stray bits. Well, I made my sister that like scrapbooking set, and it was like a box, and it had a bunch of removable trays like this inside the box. It was actually for her daughter, for my niece. And I made one for her too, but it was different. But anyway, this one didn't work out because I accidentally decapitated the bird. So this is, anyway. So as I was making a lot of these, sorry, let me get back on track. I decided that making the lid or tray doesn't have to be as involved in the sewing as the bin is, right? It doesn't need a removable bottom. It also doesn't need the bottom to be bound or anything. It can just be really simple like this. And so I created like a bonus page after a while, and that is what we're going to do. We're going to do the tray today. And so this is not a free pattern, by the way. Sorry about that, but I just love making these, and I really love these pins. Like if you know me, you know how much I love these little Paper Mate pins. I have all kinds of colors. This is my favorite color to use right here. I love writing with these. They just feel really good. I have a bunch at home, and I really need a little tray at home for these. So I'm going to make one for home. I borrowed this tray. It holds something else here. So, and I'm going to make one right here. I've got all my stuff sitting right here. But I wanted to show you how this worksheet works. Here's a pin right here. Here's one right here. I love how I reached over there for that one, but I have one right here. I have a whole thing here. So let me show you the pattern again one more time. I won't show you all of it, but there's a page in here, right here. And so it says, all right, what size do you want your bin? So you come up with the A, the B, and the C. This is just a square, but yours could be low and rectangular. It doesn't matter what size it is, right? You can make it really wide and not very deep. It just depends, like where my office was when I developed this. it had this wall of cubbies, and so I would make these for that wall. It was great. So let's pretend, I'll just use these numbers that I wrote on here. I don't know why. It's a 6, a 7, and a 4, right? The A, the B, and the C. So we're going to transfer it here. 6, 7, 4. Now, the math is minimal because I pretty much do all of it for you on here. And then all you do is you just follow the colors. So you see how there's blue and red A's, B's, and C's. And you just do this like 1/4 inch plus BA plus BA plus 1/4 inch, and then you get this total right there, right? So it's very, very straightforward. So what I like to do is I just put in all the A's, B's, and C's on here, and then I don't have to worry about anything else. So all the A's are 6, the B's are 7, the C's are 4, just like that. And then I go through here and I do the math. So this is 13 plus 13 plus a 1/2 inch. So that's 26 and a half. 4 plus a 1/4, 4 and a 1/4. So now I know to cut this body piece 26 and a half by 4 and a 1/4. If I want to get the bin, that's going to look like this: 6 inches across the front, 7 inches deep, and 4 inches tall. And then your rest of your pattern pieces are right here. So 6 plus a 1/2, 6 and a half, plus 7 and a half, and that's the bottom of the bin. And then the stiffener that goes in the bin, well, this is 6 minus a 1/4, so 5 3/4, 7 minus a 1/4, 6 3/4, and you get the idea. And then here, when you see the little scissors, that's the size piece that you cut, right? And then here you go. And then you have all your pieces, that's it. And you can use a ruler to cut them out or whatever you want. And then there's a yardage thing here too. So if you want to figure out how much yardage you need, you can use this little calculator as well. And then there's videos and all that to help you sew it. So anyway, I love this. I know I'm talking way too much about this, but I just love this pattern. It's super fun to design bins and then sew them. And they're just kind of magical. And you can put, you know, little label windows on the front. You can do handles on the front. You can do whatever you want. You could make a lid like we're going to do today, which is going to be a pen tray as well. So let's find a place for you. Okay. All right. So I've already got mine sitting here. So I picked this binding out. Yeah, I know binding again. Just suck it up, all right? You don't have to sew it. You can just watch me. And then I have this mostly cut out because I also wanted to show you my little tip for cutting corners. I just showed this in a live stream last week, but I just thought I'd show it in a Vlogmas as well. So when I use a rotary knife and I have to cut these corners like this, let's just move my paper here. This is my tray. The tray pattern is much different than the bin. So this sews a little different than the bin. So I have these 4 corners that are cut out, right? And you know when you're using a rotary knife, you're like, okay, I go up to here and then what do I do? How do I turn a corner there, right? Well, this is, I'm gonna get my 2 layers lined up. We'll pretend like this is my rotary knife. I go up to here, right? And then I lift this up. And then I would take my rotary knife and go whoop, like that. And it makes it so that you don't accidentally cut into your fabric right here. And just remember, if you do have seam allowance on this, just note what the seam allowance is in the back of your head. If you go a little past that corner, as long as you're within that seam allowance amount, it's fine, right? Don't sweat it too much. All right, so that's my little tip. These pieces really need to be ironed, don't they? Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew a box. I think I do this corner to corner. I love how I haven't made one of these in a really long time, so I'm trying to remember. So I'm gonna do this like 1/4 inch in. Wait, oh, I know, I can tell. My little stiffener pieces. Oh, in fact, I need to put my stiffener in here for this first one. That's what it is. Okay. I'm just gonna set that in there just like this. Kind of centered. I'm gonna flip this over because this is the, well, it doesn't really matter. This is a little tray, not a lid. So, all right, well, we'll just do it like this. And I'm just gonna sew all the way around. My foot is running right alongside the stiffener, but I can move the stiffener out of the way as well. It's pushing my foot away a little bit because I can't really see it. I can also put my foot, one leg of the foot on top of the stiffener. And we're back at the beginning. There we go. So now the stiffener is in there. Let's get rid of this thread here because that's gonna bug me. Look at that. Yikes. All right. And so now I'm gonna do these corners, and I think I know a trick to doing these. So I gotta kind of handle this stiffener a little bit. So we're going to put these edges right sides together, the lining sides, and now we're gonna flip this one around. And also put these together, just like this. You gotta let it know who's boss here. I'm a little bit off, but then look, you don't really have to do a whole lot of fussing. You've got your whole corner done, just like that. Yeah. If you don't like doing that, what I do is I peel this away, fold it, and I really mash my stiffener. Anytime I'm sewing like a bag or something with stiffener, you'll hear me say, just mash it down, like let it know who's boss. So I get it started in there. And now I'm going to arrange it. I got my needle down, and I'm just going to pull this exactly how I want. I'm not making this look easy, am I? I'm so out of practice. There we go. I've done these a few different ways. Depends on the fabric. Some fabrics, you know, are a little stiffer. But just like that, just sewing those corners. You press the seam allowances like opposite to each other so they're not very bulky. You can also open them in some cases. All right, and then we have two more here. Let's try and do it again with the tricksy way, like this, where I do all four. You know me, I love going like, well, why? How can I do this better? That's what it is. Okay, I have to fold the stiffener like this. Right? I'm going to put the lining like this. I'm going to fold this lining around. Or maybe what I could do is maybe let's try 3. Yeah, this feels good. 3, all right? And now I'm going to put this right sides together. Let's see. Maybe I shouldn't be too clever when I'm doing an unedited video. Oh, that's the trick though, is folding it like that. Okay, okay. Okay, I'm not a fan of this way. Don't do this, that's too fussy. All right, so let's get that in there. Because now I also need to make sure that I land on that sewing line, if not next to it, you know? All right, there's my, there, I have one more. All right, we'll do them separate. That seemed to be the easiest. Then I can get my edge lined up because I really want this edge right here to be nice and lined up. Mash that stiffener, just fold it in half right there at that corner. And then I'm just going to continue down on this side here, but I have to fold the stiffener the other way, make it a little easier. It's so small, I'm having trouble grabbing it. There we go, just like that. All right, so now we have our little tray here, and we're going to stick our last little bits of stiffener into these sides, just like that. And I like to really push it down in there. It'll kind of try to spit it out. See, when the corner isn't sewn to itself like this one isn't, it does make it so that your corner isn't really like secure down here. So I'm gonna stitch in the ditch. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stitch in the ditch in this corner. Sorry, I'm relearning how to sew this. I'm only gonna go for a little bit though. I just need like a ½ inch, just like that. And don't I have another one that's separate? Here we go, this one. Let's flip this seam allowance so that they're the opposite. Get it started. Oops. And then I'm gonna pull this corner away just like that. So I'm just doing like a little bit, just so that there's some definition in there. All right, now stick my stiffener back in there. It wants to stay in there much better now. I think think this could be a little shorter, but I'm going to go with it. I like the proportions of it. I love boxy things. All right. Again, I'm going to mash this. I'm going to mash this, keep my edges lined up, and I'm just going to stitch around the top just to kind of make it all behave, right? So you see how this starts poking out right here? Ooh, let's get these threads gone. I'm going to push it in there as I approach it, just like that. And it wants to do it right here too. Let's pull the camera down. You can't see anything. Push it in there. Push it, just let it know who's boss. Pull this out. Push that in. Keep it all lined up. Don't take no for an answer. Just like that. And just mash, mash, mash. That's what I do. Mash, mash, mash. And this one is not going into the corner. The corner's not, oh, there we go. It's not turned right side out all the way. There we go. I could feel it resisting. And if you follow the directions, you know, everything's going to line up. Plus you'll have a little wiggle room in order to sew it and fill it, you know, putting these pieces in there. Like it's all been accounted for. If you're doing something like really drastically different, like a stiffener that's really thick or a fabric that's really, really thick, you might run into some misalignment, but you can adjust that as you go. All right, let's pull this up a little bit. All right, so now we're going to do some binding. And like I always do, I always start by folding one edge down. I'm going to mash this. All right, and we're going to start on the inside. Don't start in a corner. Don't ever start in corners. Corners are problematic. All right, we'll just start sewing. And I really keep this mashed right here. I have very strong hands. I know I say that from time to time, but I really do. They're years of doing stuff like this. And I always tell that story of, I remember the day that I decided I wanted to be better at sewing. I was just so frustrated. I don't know if I was really that frustrated. I just remember thinking, how come every time I do this, it comes out like this? Like, why can't I get it better? And I just remember one day, I just remember like going, no, I don't accept that from you, talking to my sewing machine. And I just decided, you know, I was like, I'm the boss here. I will not accept anything than what I want. And if I have to take this out over and over again until I get it, that's what I'm doing. And that's what I did. Okay, there we go. So when you get to that beginning there, just lay this piece, just line it up with that turned back edge, just like that. And then when we turn it to the right side, it'll be nice and clean, just like that. You don't have to like sew a seam or anything like that. All right, so let's just go around here and make sure that this is a nice even seam allowance. This denim on the outside, the sunflower, is really stiff. So I'm just kind of looking around here. All right, I made some jeans out of this sunflower denim. They're pretty epic. All right, so I'm going to turn this inside out. I always find it easier to sew on the inside of something like this. This is reversible, by the way, too. I always find it easier to sew on the inside because I don't have a free arm. So if you have a free arm, you don't really have to do that. You don't have to turn it. All right, so I'm going to arrange these binding pieces. I cut my binding 1 3/8 inch. That's kind of like the standard I like. You can do whatever you want. If you want a nice wide border, you can do a much wider binding if you want. This is also a good time to use an awl if you have it. Mine's right here, but so far so good. It was just starting to get tricky, that's what made it pop into my head. Let me pull this down so you can see that when I get to these corners, I'm really straightening them out because they actually are a corner. The interesting thing, like when you sew this as opposed to doing a bin. The bins, the perimeter top edge was a long straight rectangle, and then the short ends are sewn together. And so you really are sewing in a long straight line when you're binding. It's a lot easier than doing this. This, when you actually are turning corners, because you saw that I sewed the corners, right? Whereas the bin doesn't have any corners. It does have a corner on the bottom, but the way you sew the bottom, you never see the bad side of it, so it works out. And I've sewn bins where I did the top edge. I sewed the top whole thing around the like this part right here, that if it was a bin, not a tray. I sewed that right sides together along the top edge, and then I didn't have to bind it at all. Like, so you can do that too. So see right here, this is a corner, and I'm straightening it out to make it easier to go around it. And here I am right at the beginning. Let's get this thread out of the way here, just like that. All right, there we go. I have my little tray. I love this little sunflower fabric. Ooh, I really centered that sunflower on there really good. Washable, very sturdy. Fits my pins really nicely. Now I want a little box and use this as the lid. This is fabric I designed here. Let's see how it looks like this. If I wanted to be able to see the sunflower all the time, I could do that. That's kind of cool. Probably should iron the fabric first. Nice. Okay, cool. Well, I'm happy with that. I mean, I just love sewing those, so selfish sewing for sure. All right, let's get to it here. Where's my pin? Here we go. I have a bun in today. Okay. Dear Santa, I have one today. Please, I always start with please, right? Please encourage others to stop shaming people's fabric stash. You know what I'm talking about, right? I've even had that happen where people are like, oh my God, your fabric stash is huge. I'm like, but it's not though. Like the amount of fabric I go through, I mean, this is what I do. If I don't have that fabric there, I wouldn't be able to do anything. And I can't just like run on empty and just buy every time. I have to have options, right? And I see this a lot. Don't shame people for their fabric stash. Like, you know, it's a slippery slope. And there are some really great mechanisms for, you know, sharing your fabric or selling your fabric. Feel Good Fibers comes to mind. I don't know if you've seen that website where you can buy from people's stash and sell your own. But those sites only work if you are buying as well, right? If you're shopping from there. So, and I think that that's great. There's places that take recycled fabric. I like to use my fabric scraps, like the trash. I use those in mulch for my garden. So there's a lot of ways to deal with your fabric, whether it's your stash fabric or it's your scraps or your, there's lots of projects. We've been sewing scraps all month. So, you know, please encourage others to stop shaming people's shaming people for their fabric stash. Love, Saremy. May you never be shamed for your fabric stash. I know there's going to be people like in the comments going, I don't really have a big fabric stash. Okay, that's great, you know. Some people inherit them. They don't have a choice over it. That has happened to me so many times. I'm like, what do I do with it? I inherited a ton from someone recently, and I was like, I can't say no to this person, but I didn't want these things or need them. And I've been coming up with really clever ways to use the fabric, and it's kind of been good. It's actually enabled me to do a few projects. and mainly because like this person moved out of the area, and so it helped her as well. And I put the fabric to good use, and I didn't take anything that I absolutely didn't want. I've had people pass away and give me their stash, you know, their family, and what are you going to say to that, you know? So things happen, and you can always share with someone, or, you know, anyway, thought I'd say that today. Okay, I'll see you guys next time, and thanks for watching. Bye.